Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today I'm coming to you with a quick update on a game that I've covered in the past, and that game is called Cauldrons of War, Eastern Front, 1941, Barbarossa, and Beyond. It is a turn-based grand strategy war game that puts you in the shoes of either the Supreme Commander on the German side during the invasion of the Soviet Union and the Soviet counteroffensive in the Winter Offensive, or on the side of the Soviets. We did a full playthrough series of this game a couple of months back. It's been in early access for a while, but the game is actually coming out today, so it is officially leaving early access and will be completed. Since our last playthrough, the game has added a hot seat 1 versus 1, so you can play multiplayer in a hot seat mode, and it has also added play by email 1 versus 1, so that you can play against human opponents, which is not something that I've tried so far, but I know several people have been playing it, and I think that's pretty interesting. Additionally, since our last playthrough, the game did add the Winter Offensive. Previously, the game ended in, I think it was January of 1942, but with the Winter Offensive, the Soviets are now able to play from December 6th, 1941 through to March of 42. So it extends a little bit further. The previous one ended with the specific Moscow counteroffensive, which was just December 6th through January 7th. The Winter Offensive extends it for the Soviets all the way into the early spring of 42, sort of the famed Soviet counteroffensive there. With that being said, we're just going to go ahead and take a look at Barbarossa again. I find playing the Germans in Barbarossa is the most compelling of this game, though I should give the Soviets a fair shot. I haven't played the Soviets in quite a while, and when I did play the game as the Soviets, it was prior to the addition of the extra time that you would get. Meanwhile, you can see here they've updated some of the UI since the last time, a little bit more clarity around these things, a little bit better tool tips here. You can see, for example, our first decision here for the commissars. We can shoot them and you get a cohesion bonus of +1 to the German armies, but you increase the barbarity, which influences how hard the Soviet armies fight, or treat them like any other prisoner, which has no effect. So if we choose shoot them, barbarity goes up, but German cohesion also goes up. Which previously I think it was more of like just 1 or 2 corps had their cohesion go up, whereas now it seems like it's all of the German armies. I can't tell if the map is a slightly better resolution than last time I played. I think it's still fundamentally the same map. I could be wrong. Let's see here. It's got weather. I think there's different maps. Actually, that might be there's a couple of different map versions, but they're all still kind of, it looks like an atlas, but it's not quite as crisp as I would hope. You can see as the Axis powers, at the start of the invasion of Russia, you have 4 fronts. You'll get 2 more in Norway on turn 2. Really Finland. But we'll start in Army Group North. That was the clicking on the reserves. Army Group North's reserves consist of the 23rd Corps, the Security 101st Corps, and the police regiments of the SS in the North. We're going to go ahead and click on our Baltic Offensive, which is just sort of a general breakthrough offensive. There's no Kessel operation, no flanking operation here. You can see here our railroad capacity is 3 out of 3. Our front width is 2. It's a narrower front as a blitzkrieg strike. Air superiority is currently disputed, which means neither side has air superiority, and operation progress is 0. So the first thing that I think we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll do a blitz operation. That will use 2 of our... Actually, no. First things first, let's go ahead and use some of our air units. I'm trying to remember how exactly to do that. There is an option. Okay, that's right. Actually, so what you have to do to use your air units is you click on one of the enemy units and you get your air options. So recon, bombardment of that unit, air superiority, airfield attacks, etc. So if we go to the northern front here, you can see we have 5 command points. If we click on one of the Soviet units here and we go with airfield attacks, we'll go ahead and destroy 4 of the Soviet aircraft units on the ground. Then we can go with air superiority. We'll destroy 3 more in the air while losing 1 of our own. And you can see the air superiority stat changes to access. Now we can go ahead and use our breakthrough tactic for our armored groups here. We've used up all of our air points in this turn already, so we can't use the blitzkrieg tactic because that includes air support for the ground offensive. But instead we'll use 1 command point in breakthrough with our 4th Panzergruppen, or Gruppe. So we'll attack there. You can see we wiped out one of the Soviet border units here. The Baltic fortified region ceases to exist. We destroyed 3 Soviet infantry units and 5 cohesion points. We progressed 30% of the way to the enemy front lines, or through the enemy positions. We can then go ahead with a deep raid to push that further. We get 12% further, so we're up to 42% of the way to our objective. And then we could, in theory, go with like a behind-the-lines raid or something like that, but I'm actually going to go ahead with a defensive withdrawal and pull my units back. I lose 5 progress, but my unit gains cohesion and is no longer isolated and at risk of being destroyed out there way ahead of the other units. So we're 37% of the way through in the first turn in the Northern Army Group. Center Army Group has a Kessel operation available to it. That's because it has 2 armored units. We're going to do something similar. We're going to go ahead and go with a airfield attack and then air superiority. So we destroyed 8 more or 7 more Soviet aircraft. We still have 3 more command points, so we're going to go have blitzkrieg with one of our armored units. We'll go blitzkrieg with our other armored units, and you can see here we gained 67% progress here. One of the Soviet units is surrounded. I didn't quite check to see if we destroyed the other one, but we did surround one of the Soviet units. We also made 67% progress. Let's go ahead with a deep raid here. It'll get them exposed and isolated, but progresses another 20%, so they're isolated, stretch lines, exposed flanks. But you can see now we've got the Soviet 3rd Army, 10th Army, 4th Army, the NKVD Border Guards, the 6th Cavalry, and the 14th Mechanized Corps are all surrounded now. So as long as the Soviet counterattack, if they launch one against our troops, doesn't hit this exposed and isolated Panzergruppen too hard, we should, basically bag a bunch of the Soviet troops in the center. You can see the map represents the fact that we've launched a very successful attack, and this has us already taking Minsk, but this is the road to Minsk, which is 87% there. So pretty successful first attack there in the central front. Meanwhile, in the southern front, which is sort of the Kiev front, we're going to do something similar. I'm not sure that airfield attacks are always the best route. The air units feel a little bit underpowered in this game, but they can definitely influence our ability to keep our supplies up, and using sort of long-range supplies for our ground units via air to keep our spearheads going. So in my opinion, it makes a little bit of sense to do. So we'll go ahead and launch a blitzkrieg again, 29% progress, 6 artillery, 5 infantry destroyed, 5 cohesion against the Soviets. We'll go with a deep raid as well, another 9%, and then we'll go with a defensive withdraw as well. So we lose 5% progress, but we do get our cohesion back, and these guys are no longer isolated. Okay, so that moves us down to the Romanian front, which is currently a static front. There is no offensive operation planned yet down here. So what we're going to do is use 1 command point to switch us over to a breakthrough mission. We're then going to use our air units as well. Just air superiority, no airfield attacks down here. I just want to get the air superiority, and I do still want to attack the enemy, so we do that. Use this 11th Romanian army for the attack. They tend to be the most effective units. I believe they're technically actually a German army with the equipment and stuff. You can see here, 3 artillery, 6 infantry, 5 cohesion, only 7% progress. We have no actual armored spearheads in the southern front. And that's going to do it for turn 1. So we'll go ahead and we'll move forward to turn number 2. You can see here we have locals are coming to support us in our drive to liberate, let me see. So when our troops enter Kaunas, the city has already been liberated by Lithuanian partisans. They later seized large deposits of Soviet small arms and began a ferocious purge on their own Jews, communist collaborators. So local Lithuanians are basically killing their fellow citizens, but they're also, sort of trying to side with the Germans and welcoming us as liberators. So the situation in the city is out of control. Killing and looting and burning are occurring in the streets, and our commander must react after the initial confusion. So we can disarm them and restore order by violence. That will give us 1 more ammunition and fuel for a German unit, but the unit will be considered pinned. We can integrate the partisans into our army. That increases the barbarity, and we also gain access of an auxiliary unit. Or we can let the Einsatz commandos take over. It increases the barbarity, but also gives us 1 ammunition and 1 fuel for a German unit, and nobody's pinned down. So this would basically be a war crime that'll increase the barbarity and would kill a lot of these people that are, in theory, supporting us, while killing their own countrymen. It feels dirty to do it. The auxiliary unit probably won't be worth very much. The disarming them would be nice for the ammunition and fuel, but it's really risky that we could have like our armored formation be pinned down. That could be a problem. Yeah, we'll just go with that and say nothing else. Meanwhile, there's pogroms against the Jews being conducted. Increases barbarism, and also auxiliary police units are available in Ukraine. And then there's the 309th Police Battalion. Men are drunk. They're starting their own pogrom. They're killing citizens. They're doing all these other things. So we can either silence the facts, which increases the barbarity but reduces the quality of the unit, or we can restore discipline to our unit. It reduces their cohesion and increases the barbarity, but only by 1. So we'll do that. All right, it's a continuation war, so Finland is coming into the conflict. With the arrival of Finland, we have 2 options. We can go with cutting the rail tracks north to Murmansk to try and cut off the supplies that could come south from a Lend-Lease program, or we could have 2 operations in the north, 1 driving directly from Murmansk and 1 for cutting the railroad. We'll do 2 to try and spread the Soviets out a little bit and make the front line a little bit more broad and harder to defend, although we don't really have the manpower to push on two spots either. Okay, so barbarity jumped from 2 to 6 between all of our various actions. You can see there are 2 fronts in the north in Norway, and then 2 Finnish fronts as well, with 1 on Leningrad and 1 sort of to the east of Lake Ladoga. We'll take a look at those units in a little bit. First things first, let's jump to the northern front. So it looks like the Soviets used air superiority for one of their points. They did lose 4 aircraft. We lost 1, but they switched the air superiority over to disputed. An armored counterstrike by the 3rd Mechanized Army occurred against our 18th Army. They lost 1 tank, 1 infantry, and 10 cohesion. We lost nothing. The 3rd Corps was then had their communications restored. There was also an armored counterstrike by the 3rd Corps against the 16th Army, in which they lost 5 tanks and 10 cohesion and are still surrounded. So that's the situation in the north. If we go here, we can see air superiority changed to disputed, and the 3rd Mechanized Corps surrendered. So the Mechanized Corps that was surrounded did end up surrendering. We also have bandits here, which means that they're bands of desperate, helpless Red Army deserters and fugitives are looting convoys. The attacks are isolated and poorly organized, but they could increase the number of trucks lost during our resupply operations. So if we try and refit, we will lose our trucks, which bring up supply. So you can do cleaning operations with units, which basically are rear anti-partisan operations, but they obviously use up your ability to, quickly restore or refit units. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and regain air superiority. I'm just going to use 1 command point for that. Soviets lose 3 more aircraft and 1 Axis plane was shot down. That still leaves me with... how much? It still leaves me with... where does it show me how many air units I have left? 3 air units left for operations. So I've got 2 that need to be used for blitz operations. So we'll go ahead and do that. Air support with the attack. You can see we gained 30% progress, destroyed 5 Soviet infantry, 3 cohesion. We wiped out the... what is this? Looks like we destroyed the Soviet 11th Army. We now have a couple of options. We have 3 command points left, 67% progress so far in this operation. I'm actually going to go ahead and have the 16th... well, actually, what we could do is we could do a defensive withdrawal for one of our points. That brings our troops back. And then we could do a assault here. No progress, but we did destroy another Soviet unit. And then we can have the 18th Army also assault the enemy. No progress, but we did destroy another Soviet unit. So we destroyed the NKVD border guards, the 8th Army, and the 11th Army, but we didn't really make all that much progress. It's a little bit concerning. We need to be picking up the pace a bit because the Soviets are going to get bucket loads of reinforcements. But their front line here is weakening in any event. Meanwhile, in the center, we're at 87% success so far. The Soviets did regain at least disputed air superiority. They lost 4 aircraft. We lost 1. Their own armored counteroffensive by surrounded forces by the 20th Mechanized Corps against both the 9th Army and the 3rd Panzergruppen resulted in nothing. They didn't do any damage to us, which is good. Remember, we had that one armored corps that was completely cut off. They themselves didn't lose any casualties, but they did lose a bunch of cohesion. And then if we click here, we'll see that the 14th Mechanized Corps, 20th Mechanized Corps, both surrendered. There are still 5 enemy units that are surrounded, but 2 of their units did surrender. So air superiority is back to disputed. We can actually go ahead and do an air superiority strike ourselves. 3 more Soviet planes, 1 Axis plane destroyed. That gives us air superiority. Our own armored units are isolated and a little bit out front. We're at 87% progress, though, so far. So I'm wondering if we could do, let's see, if we do a defensive withdrawal, it doesn't give me the option to launch another attack. So let's actually just use our infantry to attack here, not gaining any progress. I don't know why I would have to do 2 defensive withdrawals with those guys. All right, so it did another defensive withdrawal, and I'm going to try a blitz attack and see if we can get those 23% to complete this operation. Damn it, we didn't get it. Well, good and bad news. So we did a withdraw, and then we did a blitz attack. We destroyed 1 tank, 1 infantry, 2 cohesion. We also surrounded an additional enemy unit and destroyed an enemy unit. So we destroyed the 17th Mechanized Corps, captured 1 of their trucks, also gained fuel from them, and then also surrounded the 11th Mechanized Corps. So almost this entire front is surrounded, although we're still 15% away from completing that initial operation. You can see it's late June now, so each turn is a week. So we'll go back to Army Group South, and this turn, the Soviets gained air superiority on the southern front. They did 2 air operations to regain air superiority. They then did a counterstrike with the 9th Mechanized Corps, which did nothing. They lost 4 tanks. They did another one with the 19th Corps, or with this one with the 19th Mechanized Corps, did nothing. They lost 4 tanks. And then an 8th Mechanized Corps did an armored counteroffensive and lost 2 tanks and 3 cohesion. So 3 different units of their army launched counteroffensives. They all failed, although their air superiority did switch over. The 19th Mechanized, 9th Mechanized, and 8th Mechanized Corps all surrendered, and a bunch of enemy reinforcements showed up as well. So this was a pretty active turn on the southern front. Air superiority for the Soviets would make launching a blitz attack not ideal. So I'm actually going to go back with our own air superiority here, changes back to disputed, and then with that, I'll go ahead and launch a blitz attack. We'll gain 27% progress, so it gets us up to 60. The Soviets lose 3 tanks, 3 cohesion, and then I think we'll do a defensive withdrawal so we're not exposed, so we lose 5% of that advance. We're out of fuel and ammo, though, so we'll have to hold off, and hopefully our rail units will resupply us. And then we'll go ahead and see, these units are both lagging behind, but I'll try and launch attacks with them. They're not gaining much headway. They are killing Soviets, but they're not really gaining any progress, probably because they're still lagging behind. You can see we did wipe out the Soviet 26th Army, and we inflicted quite a few casualties, but we're really not moving fast enough anywhere. The Romanian front, the USSR retook air superiority as well, which is really important for me later on when I'm trying to resupply my units by air. So that's why I keep dumping my own points into air superiority. We'll assault here with the 11th Army. We wiped out the 2nd Cavalry, gained 12% progress. We'll do another assault with the same army. We wiped out another enemy unit. It's the 9th Army, and we also progressed 14% more. So again, no armored down here, so no real armored punch, if you will. But we gained 14% progress, so we're up to 33% on the Romanian front. If we move north to the Finnish front, we'll see here that we have the 1st Finnish and 4th Finnish Corps facing off against the Soviet Leningrad District fortifications and the 23rd Army. I'm going to go switch us over to the breakthrough offensive. We're going to go ahead and try and infiltrate with these guys, but they were unable to successfully infiltrate. So we'll just launch an attack. We don't really get a lot of progress. We do inflict some cohesion penalties on them. That also prevents me from being able to move on this northern front because those 2 fronts share the same command HQ through Finland. Meanwhile, on the Norwegian front, we have 2 fronts as well, 3 command points. So we've got the 2nd Gerbers and the 3rd, 2 mountain troops on the northern border, and then sort of a little bit further south, we've got the Karelian army here. So, wait, no. Are those guys pulling from the same headquarters? No, they're not. Okay, so we've got the 3rd Finnish Corps, the SS Division North, and then the 169th Division facing off against the Soviet 122nd Infantry Division, 104th Infantry Division, 1st Tank Division, and 54th Infantry Division. So we'll switch over to the breakthrough. We'll try and infiltrate with our troops. And it does look like we successfully infiltrated here. So I'll go ahead and launch an assault. We lose 1 cohesion, they lose 1 cohesion. That was not a very successful attack. Damn it. Well, that was a bit of a wasted week. We did a lot of damage in the center, but that's about it. Now we have to choose what we do with our prisoners. We can choose to execute them, which massively increases barbarity, or we can feed them, which will hurt our command points in the center and also hurt our supply. They shouldn't have surrendered. Okay, so it's extremely hot. You can see these sun with temperature icons, which are going to influence our units. We may gain fatigue or other things like that, making the fighting particularly difficult on the troops. More Soviet counteroffensives here by cut-off troops. Again, they do nothing against us. They just lose casualties and cohesion on their own end. You can see all but one of their units here in the center are surrounded. Meanwhile, the 11th Mechanized Corps surrendered. 3rd Panzer Group is ready for another attack. Axis still controls the air here, so we're going to go with the blitz attack. It doesn't do anything. Damn it. I guess we'll assault with our infantry. 3% progress. 0% progress. I'm not doing anything here. We'll give these guys ammunition supply. We lose 8 trucks to enemy units there. We'll do a defensive withdrawal, so hopefully we can counterattack and win in the north next turn, or in the center next turn. I mean, these guys should all surrender. All their units are now surrounded in Army Group Center, so that's good for us. But they're going to get reinforcements. Meanwhile, same in the north, counterattacks that do nothing. The 12th Mechanized surrenders, so it's just the 27th Army versus us. So we'll do a blitz attack. We still have air superiority. We get 18% progress. We'll assault with our infantry. The enemy is wiped out here, so now we can progress. When the enemy has no more units on a front, you can choose progress, which basically uses a command point to just have your troops advance. And then you can see here in the north, we achieved our objective in Army Group North. Now we have 2 command points left in the north. We also have 2 static fronts now. There's one front, which is the drive on the Tallinn Road, and then there's one front, which is more a direct drive on Leningrad, which is the Luga Road. Now we're going to have to use one command point in order to change us over to the offensive. So we'll go ahead and do that with the Luga Road. We'll change our troops over to the breakthrough operation, and then we'll go ahead and progress. So we'll get 14% of the way there with no enemy opposing us. They're going to rush reinforcements in their next turn, but at least for now we made progress. Army Group South, more Soviet counteroffensives, again, do nothing. They still maintain disputed air superiority. And so we can go ahead and, actually, I'd like to get air superiority again before I use my blitz attack, so we'll do that. Then we'll go ahead and do I don't have any air points left. So we'll do a breakthrough. We gain 35% progress there with our armored unit, and then we'll go ahead with a deep raid, and we'll get all the way there. So we just succeeded in Army Group South. The next will be the capture of Kiev. So we'll go ahead and refit these troops, I think. And then we'll switch over to the breakthrough. So these guys are stretch lines and exposed flanks, but you can see the Soviets, because we broke through, the 4th Mechanized and 15th Mechanized Corps are surrounded. The bulk of the rest of their troops all still pulled back. But I was able to refit my armored units here so that hopefully we can continue the drive next turn. Meanwhile, in Romania, more Soviet counterattacks to no real avail. We'll assault with the 11th Army again. We'll surround the Soviet 2nd Mechanized Corps. We'll assault with the 11th Army again. These guys are probably getting really tired and gassed. And then the 3rd Romanian Army is decent. If we take a look at these units here, you can see these guys have 3 tanks, 6 artillery, 11 infantry. 2nd Romanian Corps is just 3 infantry, These guys are 4 infantry and 4 tanks. So we'll go ahead and assault with the 3rd Romanian army. They inflicted some damage on the enemy, but not much. Wonder if we don't have any reserves in the Romanian front, so we can't really bring anyone forward yet. Meanwhile, on the Finnish front, Soviet counterattacks don't really accomplish anything, so we'll infiltrate. Try and infiltrate again. That infiltration succeeded. And then we attack following the infiltration. We make 5% progress, but we also wipe out the Leningrad district fortification, which is more meaningful. Then in the north, I don't know what like the party taking over the units really means. Yeah, my troops in the north are accomplishing nothing. Nothing at all. So we'll go with one more turn today. Essentially, we now have to make a choice between Uman or Kiev. High Command hesitates on the conduct to be followed on the southern front. While Kiev is only a few kilometers away, the Führer dreams of a giant encirclement of Soviet armies on the southern front. According to him, Kiev is only okay. Might as well turn south and trap the enemy. Few generals are ready to oppose this vision of the Führer. So if we turn to Kiev, Army Group South loses 2 points. We turn directly south, we open a new operation. Let's turn directly south. We'll try and support the Romanian front by doing this here. So you can see we have a new front here, which is a attempt to surround a bunch of Soviet troops down, toward Romania. Meanwhile, the drive on Kiev itself, 4th Mechanized Corps killed itself in its counterattack. And still no successful Soviet attacks here, although the 5th Cavalry did infiltrate. We only left the 6th Army here on this front against the Soviets, which apparently it's isolated and overextended, so we'll do a defensive withdrawal. Meanwhile, in the south, the rest of our troops turn south. So we will do a blitzkrieg attack, 24% progress, destroyed one of the enemy units. Do a deep raid to surround another one of the enemy units, 24% more progress. Then we'll assault with infantry and surround another one of the enemy units, and another assault surrounds another one of the enemy units. So 2 infantry assaults by the 17th Army surround the Kiev district fortifications and the 24th Mechanized Corps. The 5th Cavalry was surrounded by our armored blitzkrieg, and we do also have these partisan units which rose up. So the only unit that's not surrounded in this drive south is the 12th Soviet Army. Meanwhile, on the Romanian front, we did lose 1 artillery piece in the 11th Army on a Soviet counteroffensive against us. We're losing a little bit of cohesion here. We'll keep attacking, though. And you can see we did a ton of damage against the Soviet 18th Army. We'll attack again, and we'll finish that army off. We'll have the 3rd Romanian Army attack against this corps, and it'll do some cohesion damage. So the Soviets are weakening here in the south. Meanwhile, Army Group Center, can they finally accomplish their objective? We lost some trucks on some enemy behind-the-line raids, which will influence our ability to supply. Soviet 6th Cavalry is surrounded. So let's assault here. We'll surround them. We'll do a blitz attack, and we wipe them out. We'll do progress. And so there you go. We break through in the center, and now it's for the drive on Smolensk. I'm going to go ahead and, do we want to refit these guys? They need more ammo. We'll refit this unit. So 1 more fuel, 1 ammo. Hopefully this unit will receive more ammo next turn as well, and that'll set us up for launching another Kessel operation in the center and see what can be made of there. Meanwhile, Army Group North, you can see the 22nd Army is going to the front. Do these guys have any? They don't have ammo? Okay. So we badly damaged the one unit that moved forward on the Luga Road. It's the Soviet 22nd Army. But we don't get a lot of progress there. Meanwhile, on the Finnish front, I'm just going to try and assault these guys. Wow, 7 artillery, 3 infantry destroyed by this one Finnish assault. Second one wipes out the remainder of the unit. And we can progress 21%. So we made some progress there in the central front. Operation Polar Fuchs is going nowhere. So let's actually change this. Let's in the northern front, let's switch to breakthrough and try and assault with our mountain troops. And they'll accomplish nothing. God, they're so underpowered and kind of worthless up there. And so that's going to do it for that turn. Into the Heart of Darkness, the enemy's everywhere. Barbarity increases. Long road, we must, our trucks are literally falling apart on a rapid advance. It's now July, so we're a month into the campaign. The drive south toward Uman, you can see Soviet cavalry is raiding our trucks and our logistical support. Go with a defensive withdrawal, airlift, assault. Okay, so we succeed on driving south on the Uman pocket. We destroy one of the Soviet units and 2 more units are surrounded. Not sure where those troops go now. This front is closed. Yep, okay, so they head all the way south now. So they're in the Beyond the Pruitt operation now with our Romanian friends down there. So we'll assault with the 11th Romanian Army. No progress? Maybe that was the wrong unit. Their cohesion was really going down a bit. So the Romanian front is closed now? What? Because I moved the southern front down, the Romanian front closes? We still have 3 Romanian command points. What are we supposed to do with those? Well, shit. I should have attacked with the Romanians first. Meanwhile, a bunch of Soviet troops are on their way to the front in the north. We'll launch a Kessel operation. Both of our armored units here in the center are resupplied with ammo and fuel. So we'll go with these guys first with the exposed lines. Really, they don't make any progress, really. So 2 blitzkrieg attacks. We did destroy the Soviet 13th Army by the looks of it, but didn't accomplish much else. 4th Army will attack. They had stretched lines, so we really don't gain much progress there. Let's do this, actually. So in the center, do we have reserves we can send forward? Let's send the 2nd Army forward to the front. It's a pretty good unit there. Should help us in the drive on Smolensk. Meanwhile, Army Group North, we have to deal with 2 enemy units here now. All right, blitzkrieg attack. You can see our offensive's kind of breaking down as now we have to spend a bunch of command points trying to get more logistics for us. We did wipe out one of the Soviet armies here, the 22nd, but the Luga operational group will be coming forward next turn. And then on the Leningrad front, we wiped out these are militia groups, this light green unit. Wiped them out, but we didn't make much progress. We'll entrench these troops in the far north. Get some more ammo to the other troops in the north. So Hitler keeps meddling in our army group commands and the other things like that. Army Group South took a few casualties on some Soviet counteroffensives. All right, so we'll attack again. We'll get the progress there. So we have the Romanian front again with like no troops there. So we really need to shift some troops. To the siege of Odessa. So we'll shift these troops to the siege of Odessa. I'd really prefer put them in reserve refit them. It'll give them more cohesion. And then these guys are just going to entrench. So the 11th Army will entrench. Oh, these guys are the strong ones. I refit the wrong guy. Well, maybe not. These guys are fine. But now we'll try and progress on the Soviets in Odessa. Meanwhile, Kiev, you can see a bunch more Soviet troops are on the way to Kiev. We'll attack there with our army, kind of maybe pinning the Soviet troops in place. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens of these 3 surrounded units here on the, what is this front? The race to the Dnieper. Army Group Center's drive on Smolensk is now opposed by a whole bunch of Soviet troops. Okay. Yeah, we're not making progress in the center there anymore. I need to figure out a better strategy to move forward. The Luga operational group is moving forward. The 34th Army is also being committed to the fight. Okay. More militia troops are showing up. We'll just quickly wipe them out and then make progress. I wonder if the Soviets get unlimited troops of those militia troops. I'm not sure. Soviet counteroffensives against our mountain troops accomplished nothing. Okay. I really can't do anything in the north here. It's unfortunate. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for today's look at Cauldrons of War, an interesting sort of operational grand strategy war game looking at the Soviet Eastern Front. I by no means know all the tips and tricks and strategies and whatnot. Obviously in this particular scenario where we're playing as the Germans, Operation Barbarossa, things were going well at times, but overall I'm probably just going way too quick and not thinking intelligently enough about the right combination of, you can do a blitzkrieg, then a defensive withdrawal. You can shell the enemy to put them in position. Maybe use your aircraft less than I did in the early turns. Air superiority may not be as important in the early turns because I think the Soviets get some pretty big efficiency penalties early on. But that's what you're looking at here in this game, and I think it's a really interesting game. It's not flashy, but from a war game design perspective, I really think this does a lot of interesting things. I think it is something that I'd like to see more games sort of try and do things differently. It's not sexy, but I'm not sure what the release price will be when it comes out. I might be posting this after it's already out. It might be a couple of hours after, but it's only $5 right now, $4.99. So for $4.99, it's not a ton of money, and it certainly does things differently and tries some things that I wish you'd see a little bit more creativity like this out of war game designers. That being said, let me know your own thoughts, and I'll hope you guys have a great day. Until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'm out.